One of the decks this format that I think will be very fun to play and actually a decent option to climb with is KASHTIRA Punk. The one drawback of this deck is that it is a combo deck, so therefore you can lose to critical choke points in your combo, like getting Ash Blossomed on your Carp, or just getting hand trapped out of your combo, just imperms Ashes, depending on what the opponent plays, Gammas, etc. But you can likely survive because you play a number of hand traps of your own, and you have certain extenders that can help you play through probably one interruption. If your opponent knows where to interrupt this deck, like I said with the Carp, and you don't have that cross out called by or something like that to stop it, then your combo will suffer with your end board. But like I said, if you supplement your deck with the hand traps, even if you end on something weaker like just a Barone and a trap card, you can hopefully have like Ash in hand and stuff to stop your opponent as well on their turns. So it's a pretty dynamic game going back and forth. And while you do also lose to Max C, you do play, the 6 negates to Max C in and of itself, right? So it's like any other deck. It's kind of like mid, but could be top tier, especially if you go uninterrupted or only get like hand trapped once and you can play through it. You can end on a very strong board. And part of the reason is because the KASHTIRA extensions in this deck, like the KASHTIRA package, gives you a lot of utility because not only can you just make an instant Synchro 10 Baron with the Birth and the level 3, or sorry, not with the Birth, with the any KASHTIRA card like Unicorn Fenrir and any level 3 tuner, like because all the Punk normal summons are level 3 tuners basically. But when you do Synchro Summon, as you see me doing here, you can easily use Birth to bring back that same KASHTIRA card. So you just get an additional layer of interruption. And you can see our end board here is Omni Negate and Baron, Fenrir, or not Fenrir, sorry, Unicorn banish out of the extra deck, Spell Negate and Attack Redirect with the Hope Harbinger. We've got a Ghost Ogre in hand as well for a pop. And we have the Punk Imperm, so to speak, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interruptions. And we have good follow-up for next turn. We've got the Teleport and the Fenrir, which is another instant 10. The nice thing about Punk as well is you can cycle your Baron very, very easily, bringing back out level 3 tuners to remake Baron so you get a fresh Omni Negate, and then just use Birth to bring back that Unicorn, use Birth to normal summon the other Fenrir or other KASHTIRA card, and you can just see how much synergy this deck has. The opponent clearly does not have Dark Ruler no more because that is a card that would potentially beat you here, and they just end up disconnecting once they see the end board here, unable to play, and that is the power of the deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list. So in this version of KASHTIRA Punk, I am opting to run 2 Assault Synchrons, and you could also run tuners if you can fit them in, but this is kind of coping. You probably don't want to run this. The reason that this is nice as a tech option is because you can use this card, which is a Dark Tuner, with the level 8 Foxy Tune, which is a light, non-tuner. And you obviously bring this back with like the Deer Note going to the graveyard, special summon this back from the grave, or just special summon it from your hand off field spell by banishing a Punk card and bringing this out, or just special summon it off of its own effect, tribute a Punk monster, special summon this to the field. So a lot of easy ways to get this level 2 on board. Unfortunately, you don't have too many efficient ways to search this if you're not playing like the 3 tuning. And in TCG, because you don't have to worry about Max C, my list is almost exactly the same, with the exception of instead of 3 Max C, I run like 2 tuning and something else or something. And so it increases the consistency of you being able to see the Assault Synchron. And with the Dark and a Light, you can go into Chaos Angel and get both of the effects. Light Synchro, monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects, so that means your Baron, your Psychic End Punisher is already unaffected, but your Amazing Dragon, which also has the secret ability, air quotes because people don't read, to just bring back Punk cards. And so you can put up a very nasty lock by having the Chaos Angel, making your Synchros unaffected by monster effects and can't be destroyed by battle, having Baron as an Omni Negate that can cycle itself out multiple times, and having the Amazing Dragon, which can just bring back Punk cards. So think about it like this: if you set up these 3 cards, which you can technically do in one turn, your opponent can't out your board. Let's say during your turn when they pass back to you, you Baron tag out into Assault Synchron, and then you main phase Amazing Dragon just straight up for free, bring back the Foxy Tune, you just resynchro into a Baron de Floor. Like, it's that easy. You also have, like I said, the level 7 extension with the KASHTIRA cards and any of the Punk tuners as well to go into the level 10 Baron. You can play more level 10 synchros if you wanted to. Like, you can play the Chen Ying, since you do banish in this deck a little bit off like the field spell and stuff, but you might not want to go too heavy on the level 10s. But again, it's totally up to you. What am I doing here? Synchro 10s, right? yeah, I think the Chen Ying is probably the only one worth playing. This requires a water tuner, so you're not going to make that. But yeah, just the Chen Ying most likely, which is a good card. You know, it's going to put in work if you make it. Additionally, you could play Draco Berserker as your Synchro 8. I'm playing 2 Jam Dragons as well as 1 Dragite. This again is just a spell and Trap Negate. Very, very powerful. Being water as well. The Carp is water, so just having this in your graveyard makes your Dragite online. And you can make this off of like the Deer Note and a level 3 Synchro if you wanted. And another secret tech option is Instant Contact, where this just brings out either a level 7 or level 5 hero monster. And again, you can see I chose both the water cards, so in case I need to put my Dragite online, as well as just prevent more bestial material for the, like the opponent to banish. But this card, right, level 5 with any level 3 tuner is a Dragite or any other level 8 Synchro that you want to make. I put in Crimson Blader. You can put in Draco Berserker and stuff as well for an additional interruption like a monster banish. And then obviously the level 7 with the level 3 makes any of the level 10s. So you can argue if you want to play these tech options or not, because you might not need to if you think the KASHTIRA package is good enough, which it definitely is, because you're essentially playing like 3 different routes to get into Synchro 10s with your Punk engine, but you also have the utility to make, I like the Instant Contact because you have the utility to make like the Synchro 8 play off of bringing Mariner. And having access to Dragite here is actually really important, because you can see like once you have hand traps and then you have like onboard negates. Like the deck is so powerful when it sets up. It's really hard to beat, because I don't even think Super Poly beats it, right? Oh no, Super Poly would, because if you put up the Amazing Dragon with Baron, just keep in mind that they're both wind. But aside from that, you know, you could go into the Hope Harbinger and the Baron, like what you saw me do in that match, where you know you can't get Super Poly. You are susceptible to Dark Ruler to a certain extent, but I mean, what deck isn't at this point? If you have, yeah, I guess there's not really much you can do if you get Dark Ruler, right? You can try to chain like this if you want and then activate a monster effect, but what monster effect are you really going to use? You can't Baron negate a Dark Ruler. So keep that in mind, but you play around like Book of Eclipse, Book of Moons, which are very popular, other KASHTIRA cards, KASHTIRA decks. And like I said, going second, you play a number of decent hand traps that you can draw into to slow down your opponent, and hopefully enough extenders that, you know, if you do get interrupted off your normal summon of like Xiamen or something, you can still extend to a certain degree and play through that, right? Just having access to the KASHTIRA cards as well is amazing going second cards. So that's why I think the deck is pretty resilient. Like I said though, it's a combo deck, so it does have its choke points. If your opponent ashes the Carp, if they know what they're doing and you don't have a way to stop that, you could be in a really tough spot. If you get Max Seed and you don't have the Ash, Call By, or Cross Out, you're in trouble as well, because you don't want to keep special summoning and giving your opponent basically game, because Max Seed will draw them like 10 cards and then they'll just win the game next turn. So keep that in mind, but other than that, the deck is fairly strong. So if we're going to quickly go through the deck list here, triple Max Seed, double Assault Synchron. Again, this is a flex spot. You can put in more hand traps like Veilers or something if you wanted to increase like consistency and make it more competitive. This is just, again, just extra ways to get into a Synchro 10. 1 Ghost Ogre, you only play 1 because it's searchable off Jam Dragon if you need it. Usually off Jam Dragon, you search the last Punk card that you need, most likely Madame Spider. In the match you saw that I played, I drew this card, so I was able to search for the Ghost Ogre. But yeah, you definitely want to play at least 1, I think. Triple Ash, of course, 1 Sarakusa. You could play 2. This card is very important. This is like your main combo extender. You need to make sure you get into the Carp so that you can bring out the 2 extra Punk cards. 1 Wagon, you only have 1 spell, Punk spell to search Jam Session. If you hard draw this Jam Session, your Wagon is kind of useless, so you don't even need it. 1 Madame Spider, again, you only need 1. I am playing both the traps though. You can argue to cut one of these. You probably don't need the Dangerous Gabu since you run 3 Imperm, but it's also nice to have a searchable Imperm. And this card I think has a lot of value because it deals with like Birth on the opponent's side, any other face-up card that they might have. It can be really good just to shut down like a Fenrir or something before it can activate its effects, etc. So I think you want to play this over the Gabu personally. Triple Xiamen, this is your main normal summons, what you want to see. 1 Deer Note, you could opt to play 2, but you don't really want to see this in your hand. If you do see it in your hand, it is a problem though. That's maybe one of the reasons why you want to run 2, so that if you do see it in your hand, you have a second one in the deck. 2 Fenrir and 2 Unicorn. You could opt to play 3 Unicorn. Like I said, just cut some of the other flex spots for the third unicorn just to increase the chances of you drawing it in your opening hand. Don't need to say anything about the KASHTIRA engine. It is the best engine in the game when it gets its support. Assuming it doesn't get nerfed, so keep that in mind. Triple Foxy 2, and this is one of your key extenders if you get negated, so you'd absolutely need to play 3. 2, Ogre Dance, you could cut this to 1 if you wanted to. This card is basically just a deck thinner, but running more of these copies just gives your opponent more opportunity to interrupt you. That being said, this could be a good bait if you Ogre Dance and your opponent ashes it, and you're like, that's great, now I can play my combo and know that my Rising Carp won't get ashed. That could be good. However, if you'd rather play like a certain other extender in this spot, that would be beneficial because, like I said, this is susceptible to Ash. Triple Instant Contact, again, you can opt to play this tech or not. It's probably not needed, to be honest, because you do have the KASHTIRA cards as your level 7 engine, and if you're playing the Assault Synchrons, you're just playing a lot of ways to get into Synchro 10, right? That's basically what this deck is kind of catered around, is that I have multiple ways to make sure I try to get into a Baron de Fleur for that Omni Negate. For 2 reasons. One, to play around Nibiru, right? Because you want to get a Baron de Fleur out quickly to not get Nibiru, because that's very common in the format right now, and it will be throughout the rest of the season most likely. As well as just ending on a Baron. If you don't have to waste the negate during your turn on like a Nibiru, you have an Omni Negate for the opponent's turn. And like I already explained many times, the Baron ability, if it stays on the field, the ability to tag itself out back into punk cards is really, really strong. Jam's Extreme Session. You only need to play 1 because, like I said, it's searchable off Wagon, and you've seen how the combo kind of plays out if you watch the beginning match. But this card is insane. This card not only gives you a free special summon of a punk card from your hand by banishing 1 from your graveyard, but it's also draw up to 2 when you activate punk card effects. So usually by the time your combo is resolving and you get this on field, you'll have 2 more effects to resolve. You pay 600 for Jam Dragon to search, and then you pay 600 for the Madame Spider to search Trap, most likely because this is the last punk card that you end up using in the rotation. So you usually always get your draw 2, and as you saw, I think from my match, the draws were pretty good, like drawing into an extender, drawing into like, you know, an Assault Synchron or something could be really good as well, an Instant Contact to help you facilitate a level 10. Like any draw is going to be pretty much a good draw. Draw into a Max C, draw into an Ash, because by the time you actually use this card and go through its effects, you're gonna already get all the punk cards out of rotation. So you're not gonna draw a brick most likely. You're gonna already have your Deer Note and your Wagon, your Shirakusai. All of them are gonna be out of your deck. So all you have left to draw off of Jam Extreme Session is basically extenders or hand traps, right? Or other forms of interruption. So that's why this deck can be really good. Only 1 birth. Again, you're not milling cards, so you don't have to worry about milling this. And it is a really good search off of obviously Unicorn. You can see what the extension is. It's a free Synchro 10 with this and any punk card, and then you just bring back whatever you just synchroed away as the level 7 with the birth, right? It's absolutely crazy. So really good synergy there, especially if you start with the Fenrir and birth. Like I know this is a one-of, but like, you know, could you imagine synchroing off the Fenrir and then using birth to bring back Fenrir? And you have like a Baron and Fenrir and birth on field? Like that is just crazy, right? So yeah, you can see how good it is. Double Emergency Teleport should be at 3. You know, Konami should unlimit this card, but you know, this is one of your main extenders, so you definitely want to play 2 of those. Double Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout, don't need to explain those. Triple Imperm to help complement your hand trap package. 1 Dangerous Gabu, again, you could make a case to cut this, but a searchable Imperm is nice as well. And then 1 Nashawari Surprise as the pop extra deck. 1 Mariner, 1 Aqua Neos. You could free up these spots if you choose to cut the Instant Contact, like I mentioned. 1 Crimson Blader, again, you could use any other level 8 synchro, but you don't really make the level 8s, and if you are making a level 8, most likely you're going to make Dragite, so keep that in mind. Of course, 1 Carp as well. You could play 2, because like I said, this is a critical choke point, so playing 2 isn't necessarily the worst, because if one gets interrupted and you think you can extend with another one next turn or something, you could try to do that. And if you do that, you likely play 2 Shirakusai, so you could make this like a much more focused punk deck by like focusing a lot more on the punk engine if you wanted to. So there is that option if you wanted to do that as well. 2 Jam Dragon, again, just having utility of 2, I like it over just playing the 1 of, especially if you go second and your opponent rips your extra deck with Diablosis or Unicorn. You definitely want to have the second one. And it will more often than not prompt them to rip like Chaos Angel or Baron with their Unicorn or Diablosis. They'll likely leave your level 8s alone. But if they see this as a 1-of and they know how the deck works, they will rip the Jam Dragon because they know that this is one of your key combo extenders along with Carp. And actually, that being said, if they go first, you should be playing 2 Carp because of that. What am I saying? I just realized that right now. Yes, if you get Diablosis or Unicorn, you definitely want to be playing 2 carp. So I would actually say play 2 carp. Probably cut Fortune Tune. You don't need this. But yeah, that's how I would definitely play the deck. So keep that in mind. 1 Baron, 1 Chaos Angel, 2 Amazing Dragon. This card is really good because it's not only spins cards back, and you can dynamically synchro with it. If you leave Shirakusai on the field and you pass turn to your opponent, you can quick effect synchro, pay 600 and synchro into Amazing Dragon, and then spin cards back on the opponent's field up to the number of Punk level 3 synchros you have in your grave with unique names. So pretty good card there. And also keep in mind that if you activate this effect during your opponent's turn and you have the field spell up, you will also draw because you paid 600 points to activate a Psychic Monsters effect. So this card is very good. And then like I said, it's on the field. If you synchro it into it during your opponent's turn and it survives and your opponent passes back to you, now you have the secondary ability of target a punk monster in your graveyard, accept itself, and special summon it. So it's a free special summon of like a level 8, a level 3 tuner to extend, and then you pay 600 life points, you draw again off Jam Session. So it's very, very strong in that regard. 1 Psychic End Punisher. If you think that this is going to be your go-to boss monster, you could play 2 again to play around Unicorn and Diablosis, but 1 is usually fine. 1 Hope Harbinger, just because again you saw if you don't have any other extension with the level 8s, you want to be able to go into some kind of negate, and the Hope Harbinger is very good for a spell negate. And then 1 Asa. This is arguably cuttable now since the Ishizu cards have kind of fallen off with the banning of Agito, limiting of Kelback. You might not need to play it, but it is good because it can bring back a Fenrir. So keep that in mind. If the opponent has a Fenrir in the graveyard, Asa, bring it back. Pretty crazy considering all of the Punk cards are Earth. You have some creative lines with this card that you could go for if you're going second. Let's say your cards get negated, you're able to get another Punk card on board, but you have no real other extension. You link off into Asa, bring back the opponent's Fenrir, and now you can play from there, right? So a lot of different ways that you want to build a deck for dealing with disruption, but that's why I think the deck can be kind of resilient. It's very fun to play, and the combos are really, really fun, and it's a very powerful deck when it gets set up. So that is my deck profile for KASHTIRA Punk. Hopefully you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, a like would be appreciated, and if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe because we will be posting more content on the channel for Master Duel. That's going to do it for me, though. Quantum is out.